Good evening, good night, or good morning, Reds. This is your host, Dan here. Not the other Dan. This is the American Dan. And we're coming to you live with a special session of Star Stripes and Anfield Nights. It's another rendition of our global version of America, which is Star Stripes, Wallabies, and Maple Leaves. I am myself, Dan, from Boston. We have Rigo here, who is in... Are you in Philadelphia, Rigo? I don't remember now.
I was last week for Reds versus Arsenal, but I'm in Strasbourg over in Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice. So how are you tonight, Rigo?
Doing great. Excited to chat about the Reds, and it seems some good news is forthcoming. So very excited to get into that with you guys.
And for our next two guests, just like the hottest movie of the summer, we have an Australian and we have a Canadian. Sadly, it's not Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman, but it's the better versions, Mr. Paul and Mr. CT. CT, I know you're representing Down Under, and you're going to do a great job over better than Hugh did in the movie. How are you tonight, mate?
A nice accent, 7 out of 10 for that. Great to be with you guys, Dan, Rigo, Paul, and the esteemed chat. And I look forward to talking about Reds. Things are heating up. And I'm excited for the season to start, right? It's starting in just over a week.
Yeah, I know. 2 weeks. Yeah, exactly. And Paul, the better version of Ryan Reynolds, how are you?
I'm doing very well, actually. Just enjoying the final few weeks of summer. We have beautiful summers here. Just sad that it's only a few weeks, but other than that, you're looking forward to the start of the season. No, football is just killing me, man. I need to see some real action now, but I'm doing okay. How about you, Dan?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I just got off work, and like I said, I was rushing back to host and prepping some dinner, and I got myself a little bit of late night hydration drinks to keep me going. No caffeine, thankfully, so I can sleep. I'm doing great. It's good to see you again, Paul. I know the day's going to get longer and darker, and because it's going to be winter and fall soon, and that's what happens in my life when I don't get to see this lovely panel in front of me. Especially my brother Paul. Like I've missed this man. We've been here together for almost a year now. Rigo about a year. CT, you come out 3 months now, 4 months on this panel. It's great to have you. It's great to have you guys here. Speaking of which, just to keep this bit going, has anybody seen Deadpool and Wolverine yet? Any thoughts? Rigo, did you like it?
Saw it last Sunday with the family. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. From the opening scene through the end credits. I thought it was hilarious. Great time, and definitely recommend everyone to go check it out.
Yeah, Deadpool's also rad. CT, how did Australia's national treasure Hugh Jackman? Did you get to see his movie yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Saw it in 4DX, the one where they shake you around and and all of that. It was an experience, man. But yeah, I love the nostalgia of bringing back some faces. If you haven't seen it yet, I won't spoil it, but go see it. If you haven't already seen it, what are you doing?
Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself up in here. Little test of my Creole, the Cajun Creole accent. Paul, have you seen the movie yet?
Well, I am the odd one out. I must admit that I'm not the greatest movie fan, but no, I haven't seen it. But now hearing you guys talk about it, I may have to go and see it, hopefully.
Did you ever watch like some of the old superhero movies like X-Men or like Blade or any of those kind of old 2000 movies?
Yeah.
Back when you would probably enjoy it if you get a chance to see it. All right, guys. Enough shilling for Disney. Thank you, BB.
You calling them old. Meanwhile, I grew up I wouldn't say grew up with them, but they came out contemporaneous with me growing up. And
I very much grew up with those movies. But that's enough shilling for Disney. They don't pay us to do
classic.
This.
Go with classic. I want to say
they are a classic. They are a classic. I'm just saying because it makes me feel old because I'm almost 30. All right, enough shilling for Disney and Marvel. Let's instead shill for FSG and Liverpool. As they know, I am on their sandwich payroll, not their actual payroll. Sadly, that would be nice. They have great benefits. Sadly, I'm just paid in sandwiches. Preseason. So I don't know if everyone got a chance to see all the preseason games. I hope so. I got to watch all of them except for the Preston one. It's just the highlights. Paul, I'll start with you first since I started the other way with Rigo. What are your thoughts on preseason? Thoughts? Generally, who impressed you? Did you enjoy beating Arsenal and Manchester United? Because I definitely did. But yeah, just give me your general thoughts and we'll take it from there.
There's two players that stand out for me, really. One for the wrong reason. Prior to the preseason, I was of the belief that Fabio Carvalho is on his way out. There's no spot for him in the team. But I think he has done quite a bit to change my mind. I think he can get some minutes because he was really impressive. Not just the goals that he scored, but his general play was pretty impressive, if you ask me. And on the flip side, I think Endo took a step back. I'm not sure if it's the style of play that we are playing now what doesn't suit Endo, but he wasn't at his best in the games that I saw, and maybe his style of play doesn't really suit him, and maybe he is no longer a starter. But other than that, obviously we didn't see the main guys like Trent and so on, but we don't need to see them to know what they are. But I think Fabio Carvalho was an eye-opener. I think he was really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. I actually, I've been hoping for Fabio Carvalho to break through because ever since we signed him, my belief has been that there's something with him as a player, and he would be a great player no matter where he played at. I just hoped it would be with us, and thankfully, it may look like it might be us for this coming up season. Though I know some people probably won't be happy with that. CT, I'll come to you next. What were your thoughts on preseason in general?
Yeah, really positive. I always look at it with a pinch of salt because it's not the real thing, and I urge most fans or everyone to look at it from that way. But that also means that you do need to look at it like the competition. Was against United, Arsenal, and Betis, and in those games there was patience, there was a positive build up. Two of the games, or two or three, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't without a striker. So there's also reasons to look at it differently. But yeah, some players that we didn't get to see a lot of, I haven't seen much of shine, and those guys were Fabio, like Paul said, got to see more of Sepp as well. And Salah, shout out to him, contributions in every game. As well. So I think he's set for a huge season. So, but with Slot, the big name, like Rigo said, the big incoming so far has been Slot. And he's definitely changed the way we play. It's exciting from what I've seen. But in terms of, having everyone together, he's only just got everyone back, yesterday or the day before. So it's onwards and upwards from here. I think we're going to look even better against Ipswich after 2 weeks of training. Hopefully, we have our new signings as well to add. But yeah, mostly positive, Dan.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's hard to not be positive when you go to America and you win all your games. I think that's all absolutely true. I mean, I also was very impressed by how good Sepp Vandenberg was. He's the player that we all thought was going to get sold, and then he's still not been sold. And obviously the chat doesn't know our group chat, but then it oscillates between each week between who's getting sold, who's not getting sold. Sometimes it's Sepp Vandenberg, sometimes it's not. It feels like his opinion is changing, or the reporting on his future is changing by the week. But I think at this point, it looks like that Sepp is probably going to stay, which I hope he does, because if he does, we're pretty much set at center back. I know we can argue and discuss about would you still want a better left back or a left-sided center back to fit that? And El Hero has decided to become El Wrong and say sell Carvalho ASAP. What are you going to do with that money, El Hero? You want John Henry to have another yacht? Is that what we're doing? Is like we're getting another yacht here? Sell Carvalho, and who by who? We're not buying anyone at this point. We haven't bought anybody at this point, but that looks like it's about to change. Rigo, I'll come to your thoughts. Obviously, you can respond to anything Paul and CT have brought up, bringing some new approaches. I think you're right. The best signing has been Arne Slot, who I think has brought in a very small but massive changes to how we approach play. Obviously, it feels it's more possession based, it's more incisive, it's more risky but less risky too. It's more emphasis on control than, say, being able to counterattack quickly, though we're obviously still doing that. So what do you think What are your thoughts on preseason in general? I mean, again, obviously beating Arsenal and Man United is not a bad thing ever.
And Betis as well. Don't discount Betis. They always put a admirable effort. Their manager Pellegrino is
that
one
is
of the
true.
best.
Real Betis
And
are
we
no.
got to see Adriana as well. You know, he did come with some fake transfer news, trying to be Fabrizio, handing out jerseys to Tsimikas and Mohamed. But so far, to be quite honest, I can't be feeling more positive as far as what the team is looking like. As I mentioned in the comments, and I'll just state it out loud here for the stream. Our number one transfer, I know we haven't brought in any players, but our top transfer, I think we hit it right out of the park. To use a baseball term, we scored a open that goal apparently with the hiring of Arne Slot. I think so far the football that they're playing has been great. Obviously, some growing pains, some players that might not fit. He hasn't had a full squad, as we all know. But very, very impressed as far as how we're looking. And the most impressive thing is, I think his ability as a communicator and as being able to get his message across to his players has just been, in just a short amount of time, you can quickly see how they're adapting to the play. I was lucky enough to go see them live for the first time in my life last Wednesday over in Philadelphia. I went with my family, my son's first match, my wife's first match, my brothers-in-law, cousins, and it was just great. Even some gooners came along for the ride, and driving them home was very, very, very nice. Being able to kind of rub that in, coming away from the victory. But watching them live, very impressed with Jarrell Kwanzaa. He is just an absolute, just a wall back there. Being able to win all his aerials basically has saved us from a couple of goals there in the match against Arsenal. I think Sepp Vandenberg is another standout, as we've seen. It's, of course, it's teetering as to whether or not he wants to stay and fight for his spot or make a move for and get guaranteed minutes. I think he's definitely Premier League quality. I think he'll definitely handle his own in the Premier League. And if he were to get, I know he won't want it, but a loan move in the Premier League, I think his value would skyrocket even more. That's in the case that we don't want to keep him and he doesn't want to stay. I would personally. He's very exciting to watch. I think he's quick, strong, and very good in the air as well. Aggressive. Other standouts, obviously, Fabio Carvalho netting the goals. Harvey Elliott as the playmaker in that 10 role. Providing assists as well, and Mohamed Salah. Wow, you wouldn't think a man cutting off all that hair would increase his aura, but I feel like he seems even more of just an assassin on the pitch out there with the new look. And seeing the captain's armband on him was also a pleasure. I know he's not vice captain or captain, but if one were to pick it up, he'd obviously be the next one to wear that band, and he wore it well. Very, very, very impressed overall. I know there's been some issues as far as what we can say the double pivot might be concerned. We've seen Endo obviously kind of shuttered a little bit, started the initial match, and from there just came off the bench later and later as the matches progressed throughout the preseason, throughout the USA tour. But very, very happy with what I've seen so far. And I just want to call back to that first match. His adaptability. He didn't have a striker. What he do? He played with 2 10s, acting kind of as false nines, and kind of stuck with his 4-4-2 formation as far as build-up. And that to me is the most impressive thing, to be quite honest, because being able to adapt to the match in hand and kind of do what's needed to garner the result is a very, very positive thing for us. We've lost plenty of points throughout the years in kind of remaining in our just attack mode and not controlling games and giving up tying goals here and there and dropping points. What could have been a win to a draw. And I think it bodes very, very well for us through the season. But I know that was kind of long-winded, but I'm more than positive, even without any transfers so far.
Yeah, and we'll transition out and kind of start breaking this up into looking at some of those transfers. Before we continue on, make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit the bell button. If you're watching on X, Twitter, Elon wins this time. I'll call it X. Head over to the YouTube channel. give us a follow, give us a subscribe, give us a like, hit the bell. We go live every day. We'll also start having watch-alongs once the season starts. I believe we're still doing watch-alongs, I believe. I don't know who'll be doing
We should. Depends who's available.
That's
Before
true.
you transition, Dan, actually, I don't know if you want to
Good.
do this with the panel or not. Do we want to tackle by position groups and what we've seen and what perhaps, before we even get into transfer, what might be needed most from what we've seen?
Yes, I agree, because I meant to ask you guys if, with Darwin Núñez not yet featured in the preseason games, we know why, because he was on his holiday. Is there any way you guys see a scenario in which Darwin Núñez starts the first game against Ipswich with just one preseason game to go? I just don't see it. I think he's going to spend some time on the bench at least to start the season. I'm just hoping it doesn't damage his confidence. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I would be surprised if he started against Ipswich. It's definitely possible because Slot could have a very clear idea of what he wants Darwin to do for the start, but I could definitely see a reality where it's Jota who starts the first 2 games, and then the last game before the end of the transfer window, we may see like a Gakpo or a Núñez, though I think it's going to be closer to what we saw like 2 years ago. Actually 3 years ago, where we had like a really weird disjointed team for the first 3 games, and then we saw the actual team after that. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? CT, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it'll depend on the health or the fitness of Diogo Jota, whether he starts. I think he's the favourite to start against Ipswich for the continuity, but we know Jota, can pick up. Knock on wood, he doesn't. But yeah, his fitness might be the only thing that holds him back. But I think, as Aaron's already confirmed, Darwin, or in reports coming out, Darwin is his preferred, nailed on starter when he gets up to speed, which is fine, early in the season. And look, I'm glad we're starting with Ipswich. I know it's away, but how do you guys feel about the first fixture? Pencil in a 3-0 win.
You can respond. I'll let you go first, Rigo. Go ahead and respond to that.
Just to kind of answer Paul's point there. I guess it depends on what he wants to go out with. Does he want to go with who he envisions his best 11 out there? Especially considering it's not as if these guys are coming off of injury. Perhaps they might not have been involved as much in the preseason, but they've been playing football up, longer than the rest of the players. At least crucial matches longer than the rest of the players. So it's not as if they're out of shape or have to play themselves into shape. Does he go with his strongest, or does he go with who he's been able to kind of work with the most? Because again, if we're going by that rationale, is Virgil going to start the first match? I would assume he'd be starting.
Trent?
Alisson? I think he's in that, for the first match.
I don't think Trent will start. I think Trent might be on the bench. That would be my guess, just because the fact he's been using Bradley a lot, and I feel like you at least give Bradley the first 60 at Ipswich.
But you kind of apply that, across the board with Kwanzaa and even Seth,
yeah. Kwanzaa's starting. Kwanzaa's absolutely starting. Yeah. Kwanzaa's his favorite player.
That's another topic that I think we should get into as far as who should Virgil's partner be. But again, it all depends on what Slot wants to do. Obviously, the next couple of weeks will be very telling with what he can get done on the practice pitch with them, as well as we can see in the match with Sevilla. If Darwin is the starter against Sevilla, I think that bodes very, very well for him being the opening match starter. But let's say I put myself in Slot's shoes. I think I'm starting with, if everyone's healthy, even with some growing pains, I go out with my first 11, who I think is the strongest squad, and just start the season off on the right foot.
Yeah, I could definitely see an argument for that. Just a quick segue before we get back onto the transfers, Rigo. So my first game, you'll enjoy this, was 10 years ago. It was when Liverpool came to Charlotte and they played AC Milan in 2014. And that was Brendan Rodgers. That was that fun team. It's when I think they won and Balotelli missed the penalty. And I remember because I watched Mario Balotelli play. I'm like, there's no way they're signing him. And then 2 weeks later, we signed Mario Balotelli. I don't think we're gonna have any more of those crazy signings come up. But speaking of sightings, Muse, yes, we will talk about the mystery number 6 that has been reported in the news. Apparently, so those of you who don't know, David Ornstein wrote in the kind of athletics brief overview for transfers going on. They do like a summary. He's reported that Liverpool's top target right now is a number 6, which is a defensive midfielder, which is a very interesting to me, because I don't know who they're looking for, but he specified that it's not in England, and it's someone that they're I think reasonably expecting to start. Obviously, everyone went wild with the rumor that it's Zubimendi, which JB is yes. I don't think it's Zubimendi. I think it's probably Varela or one of the Danish lads either at Genoa or Sporting. But what I'm gonna frame this question a couple ways. One, who do you think the 6 is? 2, do you think how accurate do you think this reporting is coming from Liverpool? Because we've heard a lot of different reports from the summer, obviously with Richard Hughes saying back in June that August will be a very busy month, and it's looking like a busy month. We've had a lot of players go out alone. We've had bids turned down for other players, and it looks like the rumor mill is heating up very quickly, which usually when the rumor mill heats up, Liverpool have already moved or are moving very quickly. So we'll probably know what's going to happen next 2 weeks. But CT, I'll throw back to you. Who do you think the rumor number 6 is? And do you believe the reporting and that we actually need a number 6? It's looking like Slot thinks so, but what do you think?
Yes, I think for his style of play and based on what I saw, it makes a lot of sense. And to start it off, I'm really happy that the reports come out and it's promising that the club is honing in. I would say they've identified already, and dare I say they're probably at a more advanced discussion stage and negotiation before this name leaks out. And it's quite impressive that the name hasn't been leaked out and why we're asking this question. But I do think it's probably someone from it's not Zubimendi, I agree. I think it might be Ederson, Varela. I've linked Hughes to Italy a lot because of, and the journalists keep bringing that up as well. So it's not just me drumming that up, but his rich history there from growing up, being in the Atalanta system. I think one of his signings will definitely be from Italy. And I'd love to get your thoughts on the Bastoni link as well. But in terms of that, yeah, I would probably say it's Ederson, maybe Varela, like you said, or maybe one of those other names. But my guess is as good as yours right now.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say about Bastoni is that I think he's a good player. I'm not dismissing that. He's supposed to play in a back 3, so I wonder if it's weird for me because I could see buying Bastoni if Sepp Vandenberg were to leave, or they had already sold Tsimikas and they had to play a spot cleared up. But Tsimikas is still there. Beck's still there. Chambers just went on loan to Wigan. I know there's reports that Beck may go to Celtic, so it looks like they're both trying to give them game time, either to sell, move on, or accelerate very quickly. So the Bastoni rumors could make a little bit of sense, but it's just weird to me because he's primary center back, and I think he's great, but you already have 5 center backs. So where are you going to cut your cloth in that game time unless someone's being moved on, like Konate or Gomez, which we've heard rumors that the report shopping him around as well back in June. Rigo, who do you think it is? I put up that Stephanie Dupree's put Morten Friend up. I don't think I've said that right at all at Genoa. I think that's a shout. I worry about buying Italian midfielders or midfielders that play in Serie A because it's a much slower pace. It's more defensive. One thing about playing in the midfield and the Premier League is that it's fast, it's chaotic. You're playing against midfielders in the 20th best team, like the 20th bottom tier, that are better than most top 8 clubs in Serie A. But what are your thoughts?
The one that's making the most rounds, obviously, is Martin Zubimendi, recent Euro 2024 winner with Spain. Shout out Spain. And he does make a lot of sense. We do have a great history, although just one player, of purchasing from Real Sociedad by one Xabi Alonso. That would be a great shout. I think Spanish speaker helps in a number of ways with a couple of our attacking players. Primarily, I think that would be a good connector with regards to the midfield. Obviously, Alexis is Spanish speaking as well, so that would make a lot of sense. but I think even now it might be just a little bit too obvious that it could be a Zubamendi. I'm expecting more, I wouldn't say off-brand, but off the beaten path type of a signing. We've had a couple of them shouted out there in the chat, from Angelo Stiller to Anton Stach, or I'm mispronouncing that last name. I'm sorry. In looking at all their measurables, one name that even came up in our chat, in looking at Italian league players, is Locatelli. But again, if we're looking at something that fits in that kind of age group between 24 to I think 25 at the latest, probably Stach measures out very, very well. Ederson measures out very, very well. Zubamendi, Varela. A lot of people making the joke that Ornstein is hiding who that target is because it's Varela, and he's just gonna make the appearance. You look like you could be related to Ornstein as well, Dan, to be quite honest, and Varela. Yeah, I would prefer Zubamendi just for the Spanish link. But Anton Stach, I think, with the size, he's 25, 6'4", green all over the place on his FB ref. I think that might be kind of a little bit off the beaten path. That might provide a little bit more stoutness in the midfield. And his passing numbers aren't bad as well.
What does Anton Stach play at?
Hoffenheim.
Okay, so he's in Bundesliga. I would buy that more if you know the myth, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Jörg Schmatke was still there. But I think what CT mentioned with like Hughes' connection to Italy, and the fact we've got a lot of reports coming out of Italy, and the Bundesliga hasn't really been that hot for players coming out recently. I mean, West Ham bought Nicholas Fulcrum, and who else was just bought out of the Bundesliga? There hasn't really been that many big ticket exits this year from the Bundesliga to the Premier League. What are your thoughts on Ederson? Also, I mean, I know we've debated the idea of the 6. Everyone who has watched these streams with me in here has heard me pontificate on mass about the double pivot and how when you buy a 6, it's about the profile of the player. It's not just a destroying midfielder. You know, no one's buying Manuel Ugarte, not even Manchester United. They're buying Sander Berge, the man, the ultimate Liverpool man, myth, legend, Sander Berge himself. What are your thoughts on the DM links, Ederson, Zubamendi, Varela, Friedop, anybody else you can name? And what profile do you think Slot wants? Yep, go ahead, Paul.
Actually, none of those guys excites me, to be honest. I am not against us buying a 6. What I'm against is just buying a 6 just for the sake of buying a 6. I don't think there's any world-class 6 that's available right now. Somebody that can come and make a big difference in our team, in our starting 11. We don't want to buy a midfielder who can play a 6. We need to buy a proper number 6 who is not just a destroyer, but a ball-playing number 6. Of course, we know that Rodri is the standard. Somebody in that mold. Now, obviously, I can't give you a name because, as I said, none of the guys that I'm seeing out there excites me. So, what is the point of spending 50, 60 million on a guy if we're not sure if it's the right profile? In my opinion, the better option would be to see what we have got at least for the rest of the year, and then we can see if we need one in January, because we all believe that Stefan Bajcetic has the talent to probably one day become the kind of 6 we're looking for. At the very least, we need to give him the opportunity to see if he can do the job. Now, yes, he's coming off a year injured, so it's tough to expect him to step in from game 1 and be that guy. But at the same time, we have to ease him in and see if, give him the opportunity to see if he's the guy. Endo, of course, is very limited. We all know that. But we have a bunch of midfielders, and especially if we're going to play the 4-2-3-1, I think we can survive with the midfielders that we have right now, whether you want to play a double pivot with Endo and Maka. I've seen in the United game, Gravenberch was playing a little bit deeper in that position. We know Jones can play that position. So I am not going to say that Gravenberch and or Jones are really the answer to the number 6 position, because I don't know. What I'm saying is all these other guys that I've seen being floated around for 40, 50, 60 million, none of them strikes me as the profile that will make a difference. So Ederson, I really don't see Ederson as a Liverpool player. He's an okay player, but he strikes me as a more of a number 8 to me. And we certainly have a bunch of number 8s. So, I mean, if the report wasn't coming from Ornstein, who is a guy that's very reliable, I would just disregard it totally. But I really can't give you a name, Dan, because none of these guys really. There's no prime Fabinho out there that I can identify. There's no Rodri out there. So I don't see any of these guys that are better than the midfielders that we have. Yeah. And then if you think about it, if you say Maka and Szoboszlai are starters, then you have about 5 or 6 other players: Endo, Bajcetic, Harvey, Jones, 4, 5, 6 other players trying to find for that one additional spot. So I would stand pat right now and to see if we can fill the position in-house. And then if somebody comes up in the market that really blows away, the competition, and say, yes, I am the guy, then we get him in January. But that guy to me right now is just not there. So it's not like I don't want to buy a 6. I just don't want to spend the money and buy another average player just because we want to satisfy our desire for a transfer. That's where I'm at.
Average, that's harsh, Paul. That's harsh. Don't talk about Jordan Henderson that way. That's mean. Don't talk about. I'm just kidding. I love Jordan Henderson. I'll defend him to the day I die. Love you, Hendo. I hope you're out there one day so I can get a signed jersey from you. Love you. I know. I actually really agree. My worry with someone like Ederson is that Atalanta are a very weird team, and a lot of their signings don't really translate outside of their system under Gasperini. Just to pull up the first team roster, so not including youth players, the players that would most likely play the double pivot right now are Wataru Endo, Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, Curtis Jones, Ryan Gravenberch, Stevan Bajcetic, and that's it. So there's 6 players for 2 positions. I think the reason we're seeing these links to a 6 is because the one player that Slot sees as a passenger or not good enough for what he wants to do is Wataru Endo. And I don't think it's because Wataru Endo is an average or bad player. I just think that what Endo is good at is not what Slot wants. Like what Wataru Endo was good at was winning the ball, moving it up the pitch 5 to 10 yards, and then moving through through transition through the phases very quickly. What we've seen with Arne Slot ball is you've seen more of, you still see that, but you need to be able to spin your player on the half turn and play a 15 to 20 yard ball. And I think during preseason, we've seen that Wataru Endo's, that's not Wataru Endo's strength. It's not that he's a bad passer of the ball or he's bad on the ball or he can't do these things. I just think that what Slot has seen is that he's the one player we can upgrade on right now. And I think one of the reasons why all these names are kind of same old Yanni, like same, is because they're not replacing Stevan Bajcetic or stopping him or replacing Ryan Gravenberch. It's someone to coming in for Wataru Endo. So you're trying to find maybe a younger, maybe better on the ball version of him. And I think that's why that we're seeing these links to that, especially since the fact that Marseille tried to buy him. So he's obviously for sale, like Joe Gomez. So which is to pull up the Bastoni links again, which is why I think we're getting these links, is that these are players that are available, are on sale, and these are the ones where they're looking to upgrade on. And I think with Joe Gomez, it's more of finding someone that's, I think Joe Gomez has been the death. I think Joe Gomez's greatest weakness is the fact that he's too multifunctional. Like if his best position was center back or right back or left back, I think he'd have a much stronger version of the team. Right now, he's third choice right center back, third choice right back, and third choice left back. So he's third choice all across the board, which is great, but it leaves the open question of when does Joe Gomez get a game? So yeah, TT, what do you think about my Ederson shout? Or is there if there was 1/6 in the world you would buy right now of the available, who would you buy? Because right now, for me, it would either be Varela or that's probably it. I think Varela is the only one that really makes sense to play, or Andre Trindade, who we had last year.
Yeah, so when we had Klopp, it was different. Now Slot, and just to speak on Paul's point, to get into it, it's a very valid point. But I also think we need to know that Slot's had a few weeks to oversee the squad now, and if he's made an assessment that a 6 is necessary, then I trust what they're going to do, based on that evaluation. And obviously, we've seen now that Endo's not in the plans, and it does seem likely that Endo is going to get sold, if we do bring in a 6, and if a decent bid comes in, obviously higher than the Marseille one, which I do expect it to happen. I think there's plenty of Bundesliga teams reportedly interested, so I think Endo will probably be most likely to make way. But I would like to keep Endo as a good squad depth. But one other point, to what Paul said, it's important to future-proof as well. Endo's 30, 31. He was never part of the long-term future either. So if they do want to bring in a younger 6 that they feel suits Slot's system, Dan, I think the best option would be the best ball-playing 6. And also, I know we've got a lot of midfielders that can fill those holes, but maybe Slot has plans for those guys, to be in other areas. Maybe he wants McAllister further forward. I know a lot of people do. Maybe Trent. The questions remain. Where is Trent gonna line up? Rigo.
I made an argument for him as the 10, as the right wing, and as a DM more than a right back. So I know Rigo really enjoyed that moment. What do you have against Center Burge or Ruben Neves, Rigo? Are we not playing FIFA 17 again, where we're buying the potential players for like £20 million? What do you have against Manchester United's targets? Are you saying they're not good enough?
Yeah, neither one of those players should ever, unless they bought the jersey, wear Liverpool red in a professional capacity. As far as calling back Ederson, I think Ederson would be very, very good to bring in. Almost started with Brazil. His defensive numbers in Serie A are really, really good, and he's also obviously being able to turn quickly with the ball and distribute. His passing numbers are great as well, and progressive passes also kind of jump at you. So that would be definitely a good shout. And as Hughes has the connections to Italy, can't speak the language, I think that'd be a good get, along with Bastoni. I think if we brought in Bastoni, I think that's it. With those two, I think we're pretty much set for a challenge for first place.
Paul, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I just don't see how the Bastoni links make any sense, because Bastoni plays a back three, left-sided centre back. He's not going to displace Verge in our starting 11. I don't see Verge moving over the right side to accommodate Bastoni on the left. And if we're going to be spending that kind of money and that quality player, then he has to start. And with the form of Kwanzaa and Konate, I don't think we need a $60-70 million center back that's going to command $200K a week. So I don't see the Bastoni link. And not to belabor the point, but the Endo made a ton of sense when we bought him last year, because if you guys remember the year before when we were introduced to Bajcetic, we all saw him as the successor to Fabinho, right? But we felt that he was still young, so we needed to be careful with him. It was kind of unfortunate that he had the injury, so he barely played last season. So I understand and I like the Endo signing, because we're looking for a 2 or a 3 year bridge. So why are we abandoning that scenario without seeing if Bajcetic is the guy? I don't see why we would not give him a chance at least to see if he's our long-term answer there.
I don't think the link is Arne Slot abandoning on Stefan Bajcetic. I think it's more of trying to take the pressure off of him and kind of pick and choose his games, because I think what Slot has realized is that a lot of players can play the 6. So Morton played there. Trey Nioni did there very well. And I think what he wants is someone who's better than them right now. So better than Tyler Morton, better than Trey Nioni, but not blocking his progression. And can give Bajcetic the ability to do that. Because again, I'm saying right now, like there are 6 players that could play the 6 right now. And one of them is Dominic Soboslai. So if you really wanted to be picky, you could say it's 5.
Gavin Birch as well.
That's with Gravenberch. That's with Gravenberch in there. So, and Bajcetic is one of the 5. So you want someone that you can rely on maybe 20 to 25 games a year. I mean, I'm just saying someone that can be rotated in and out. And again, if you're seeing Alexis McAllister is not even a DM, now we're down to 4, and it's Gravenberch, Bajcetic, Wataru Endo, and I can't remember who the other midfielder is on top of my head.
Curtis Jones.
There we go, Curtis Jones. And then so you're at that point now with those 4 who are the most likely double pivot players. So, you know, I'm just wiggling down players by saying what does slot see them as. So I don't think it's so much as like, you know, hiding, not giving Bajcetic that ability. I think it's more finding someone who can give you more than Wataru Endo, not block his progression, but also at the same time, it makes the squad overall better. It is kind of buying and swapping parts, so it's not very sexy. You know, it's not buying Fabinho, it's not buying Roger, it's not buying someone who is leagues above the next player. But I think that's where kind of Arne Slot's looking at is like, he's like, okay, I need to make these 1 to 2 tweaks to solidify the squad for where it's at. Which again, I also have been on the fence of, I have no idea what 6 they should buy or could buy. And I honestly have no idea. And I'm totally fine with making Stefan Bajcetic or Trent Alexander-Arnold a DM and just going, hey, hell for leather this whole season. But I can also see where he's looking at specific things and specific players and saying, where can I upgrade on based on who's available, what they can do. And I think Endo is the one we've seen all preseason has been the one that has struggled the most out of everyone. All right. Any final thoughts on that
I guess we should talk about Trent then. Is he a right back? Is he a number 8? Is he a 6?
Don't do this, Paul. Don't do this, Paul.
Okay, well, we can do the Trent thing real quick before we get the Trent.
Dan had Trent as a cam.
I did say as a 10.
The last time we streamed.
Hey, listen, as a right wing who plays as a 10, like that's what Kevin De Bruyne does. I'm just saying they play the same position, just at different starting points. Before we get into that, chat, let me know what DM you would like. That is reasonable. I would love Chouameni too, or Caicedo. Not Lavia, because he went to Chelsea and they're having fun right now with that amazing midfield 3 of Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and Romeo Lavia. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. And also let me know what you think Trent's best position is that's not right back. So I'm going to make it a little bit easier on you. It's like, so what's his second best position outside of right back? All right, so Trent. Also, smash the likes, the bells, subscribe. New streams every day, 7:30 British Standard Time and 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, or your local equivalent. Trent, Rigo, bear with me. Not like the bear of the show, which is very good, and I know that stresses you out. Like
it's gone down.
I know. So let's talk about Trent real quick before we get to our last topic. Could you see Trent being the right mid, right wing, the Salah position?
No.
Why?
I'd rather him. Yeah, he can do what a right winger does from his right back position, just on overlaps alone. So why stick him up there? You're losing speed. You're losing quite a few things just sticking him all the way upfield, limiting kind of his scope of his passing ability. He's already all the way up the field, so where is he passing it to? It'd be all short passes. Yeah, at right back, he's more than perfect. I think the system now really accounts for when either one of the left back or the right back move up the pitch. It really accounts for possible counters off that kind of mode of play. So I think at right back, he'll get back to his assist numbers and continue just pushing that record up and up and up and up, because obviously he has more years left on his career than Andy does, and currently they're neck and neck as far as leading assist getter from the defensive position. So he's here to revolutionize that right back position and cement it as his spot for future generations. So I don't think he should move from that position at all.
CT, what do you think about Trent as a false 9 striker? We're gonna shoe hole him in somewhere. We're gonna square peg this round hole.
It's a little further down my list, maybe in second or third, but
at goalie, just try him out at goalie.
Listen, he'd
His
be
long-
great at goalie. That
His
range of
long
passing,
passes from off goal kicks. I think
that's all Ederson does.
open
Like
some
Ederson's
things up.
just Trent. Ederson's just Trent in goal. His goal saving average, shot saving is average or below average, but it's his passing that makes him up. That's actually not a bad shout. Throw Trent into goal. He's the successor to Alisson. Now, what do you think, TCT? Where do you think Trent's best position is?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. But here's what I think, guys. I think, and Rigo makes a very fine point about, right back. He's become the best right back in the world. And there's a case to be made. Why reinvent the wheel? You have the best right back. What I would say is, like, what does Trent want? And clearly he needs to be, discussed in terms of what his future career goals are and what Slot can see. But I could see a world where, he plays this season as a right back predominantly, but I could also see, as the Slot ball evolves, I could see him, and I would like to see him eventually move into that central midfield, ball playing, double pivot, utilize his skills as well, getting up and down a bit as well. Connor Bradley is central to that too, been a big standout. But I think for now, if I'm guessing where he's going to play the most this season, I would still say right back.
I muted myself. Blasphemy, Stephanie. Blasphemy. I would not have this blasphemy in my group chat. Trent is a midfielder as long in my head, which is the only thing that matters. Paul, I'll wrap up with you. Trent as a left-sided center back. What do you think of that solution?
If Joe Gomez, Trippier, all of these right-footed players can play left back, why can't Trent? We all know that Trent. Just imagine Trent on that left side, pinging those balls over the top to Salah on the right-hand side. Why can't that work? I love Connor Bradley, and I would love to see Connor Bradley on that right side. So if we are trying to shoe on both players into the 11, maybe. Well, I think Trent's best position is right back, inverting it to the midfield. But why can't
not
he
Connor
play left
to
back? No, because Connor's attributes is different. Connor is a good defender, but Connor is a guy that can bomb down the wing and put in those crosses in the box with his right foot, right? But Trent playing left back, he can actually use that right foot to go across the field to Salah or whoever is that right midfield. So that could be food for thought. I mean, I still believe his best position is right back, inverted to the midfield. Can he play midfield? I don't know. I have not seen enough evidence to make a definitive position on that. Obviously, I would love to see him get a chance to see if he can do it, but I'm not yet ready to say that Trent is a midfielder. And I respect Klopp so much. Klopp is the one that has made Trent what he is. And Klopp has always resisted putting Trent in the midfield, even when we were short of midfielders. So if Klopp doesn't believe that Trent is a midfielder, I am not too eager to jump and say, yes, he's a midfielder. And with the midfield that currently have, Trent, to me, would be a little bit out of place. I don't want to see Trent as an attacking 8. He will be too close to the goal to be effective. He needs to be deeper to make those passes because Trent is not a dribbler. Trent is a passer. So I want to see Trent deeper. That 6-6 probably could work, but I think Trent is not a midfielder.
Didn't he score that banger against Fulham when he got forward and scores us a few winners?
Yeah, I know.
But being able to drift forward is different than being always there. You know what I mean? I think you lose a lot by moving him further up the pitch, as Paul's mentioning there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously this is meant to be a jest. I think any serious analysis of Trent's position will really just come down to, well, one, we'll see in these next preseason games, but two, it's going to come down to what does Trent want versus what does Slot want. I think it's been interesting that if you've watched a lot of our preseason games, and we haven't talked about this as a tactical analysis, but both fullbacks have been within the width of the penalty box. So Costa scores that goal, and he's literally like where Sadio Mane would have been, or Roberto Firmino would have been. And Connor Bradley, yeah, it's very been accordion where they've
been doing both, a lot of underlapping runs and a lot
Yeah.
of overlapping runs. So kind of keeping the
Yeah.
defense guessing, and
Yeah.
depending on the situation, they just vary. So that's been one of the best things to see. Yeah.
Which is very different than what we've seen in the past, because the 2018 to 2020 year, so the Champions League win and the league win, it was very much 2-3-5. The widest players were Trent and Robbo always. They would be wide. Mane and Salah would be narrow, and Firmino would be in the middle. Sometimes it looked like a 4-4-2 diamond. Sometimes it would look like this and that. It was very fluid at times. And I think that the past couple of years, it's been where Trent's inverted and Robbo's been the creating width. It hasn't had as much, I would say, direction as I've seen during preseason, especially with the fact that they've both been inverting and giving width. And I actually think that would benefit Trent very well, because if he's inverting when Connor Bradley was at, like, I want Trent to start shooting if he's in the 6-yard box.
I think both options. I think being as you've mentioned, like past couple of years, he hasn't really been overlapping at all, and he can just whip that ball right in there, right over the defender's head, curling right into one of his attackers just to knot it in or just tap it in. And I think losing that weapon, I think hurt us. From what we've gained from inverting him, I think we lost the option on that right side as well. So I think now with Slot's adjustments and just positioning wise, as far as how there's always someone there to back up, and triangles all over the place, I think it is going to be very beneficial for Trent. And if he wants to get his midfield on, he can just combine with a couple of players and move up the pitch, and just they've been very, very interchangeable, changing positions. You've seen that with Elliott at the 10, or Dom when he played at the 6, that depending on situations, they'll move across the field. So it's exciting stuff. But yeah, Trent, I think he's due for a monster season in this setup at the right back position.
I love these descriptions. We were having a chat earlier about people using very Baroque language to describe very simple concepts, masking the ability of intelligence. This is actually a very accurate statement. Oliver, I just feel like you could have just said he's just a deep line playmaker. That would have been much easier, but I do agree with you. So the last topic, speaking of players that are growing old and potentially running out of money, Alisson Becker. So Alisson's now 31. There have been more and more links of us potentially signing a backup goalkeeper, especially with Caoimhin Kelleher being on the shopping list and wanting more game time. My feelings on Kelleher have changed over the years. Like, I thought he was a very good backup, but not as good as Alisson. I've kind of started to see him as a very, very good number one, who's at least at the level of David Raya, if not slightly better, because he's just slightly bigger and also Irish. So that's always a plus. So we've been linked to I can't say his name right, Giorgi Mamardashvili. That's the best pronunciation you're going to get from me. Mamardashvili is currently linked with Atletico Madrid, who have just spent 95 million pounds on, get ready for it, Julian Alvarez, 10 goals a season, Julian Alvarez, Atletico Madrid, always overspending for very mid-tier forwards like João Felix. Hopefully no one comes at me in the chat for that takedown of Portugal's latest flop, Cristiano Ronaldo flop, João Felix. I think that Liverpool are going to go not into the market for a goalkeeper. I think they're either going to promote Jaros or Pitaluga or one of their goalkeeping prospects to be the long-term replacement for Alisson. I think Caoimhin Kelleher is just a little bit too outside of that perfect window, but I think Jaros has shown himself to be a very capable backup goalkeeper, very capable third choice, at least at Adrian's level when we bought him, and we won a Super Cup in a league with Adrian. So my thought is the fact that a lot of these links are just there because Alisson's probably, I don't know how long he's going to stay. Is his contract up in 2 years, Rigo? 2
Yep.
years, something like that.
Mhm.
So I could definitely see a situation where Alisson leaves on a free or is on a smaller contract the next couple of years, and that's going to be a new replacement. I don't know. What do you guys think about this link to Giorgi Mamardashvili link as well? I don't see it happening at all. But what do you guys think?
Isn't it too early for us to be looking for spending 25-30 million for
No,
Alisson's
Paul. People want to
replacement?
sell. No, Paul. People want to sell Diaz, Gakpo, and buy Anthony Gordon. Gosh darn it! Like people want their transfers now. It's never too early. Sell Bajcetic.
Right, but I mean, goalkeepers usually have a longer playing time. Manuel Neuer is almost my age and he's still playing for Germany.
And look how much. And look how much Germany have won while Manuel Neuer has been keeping Manuel Andre ter Stegen on the bench. You know,
right? But the point I'm making is Alisson, to me, have at minimum 5 more years as a top goalkeeper. I think he's like 31, if my memory is correct. And a 35-year-old Alisson would still be top 3, top 4 goalkeepers in the world if he avoids injuries. So, I mean, I am kind of, do we really need to be spending that kind of money now on Alisson replacement who won't play hopefully for another 2 years? Are we suggesting that we won't find another quality talent like this Georgian guy? Can't pronounce his name within the next couple of years, and we have to strike right now. I just don't see the need. And let's face it, Keller is a very, very strong number 2. So I think we're fine where we are with goalkeeper now. The guy's talented for sure, but it's not like Alisson's 36. He's 31. So what's the point?
Giorgi Mamardashvili. There we go.
How old is he? 24?
He's 23. He's 23. He's
23?
at Valencia. Yeah, he's an absolute
Right.
unit though, 6'6". No, I agree. But I think the reason this link is out there is, one, you have the contract situation with like Van Dijk, Trent, and Salah who have not been sorted. Alisson's kind of the next group that's going up, and I feel like I think there's a feeling behind the scenes that Hughes and Edwards may be reminiscent to give a goalkeeper a long-term deal at that money, especially when they spent all this money on developing these youth goalkeepers. So that's why I think that these links are kind of out there, similar with the Gomez link and Bastoni. Rigo, CT, what do you guys think about Mamardashvili, Giorgi, or any other goalkeepers that you would want to replace Alisson? Because he is 31, so he's still got a lot of good seasons ahead of him. He's not 36, he is 31. He's definitely got at least, I would say, 3 to 4. But he also loves a barbecue, and it's not always the most athletic, and he very much plays to get in shape. So what do you guys think about these links of potentially looking for a new starter number 1 goalkeeper to develop?
Go ahead, CT. I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'll say I think the plan sounds good to me in terms of loaning him back out. Like, it doesn't hurt. But I understand what Paul's saying. I agree. I think Alisson has several years at minimum at a really high level. Hopefully, for our sake, he plans to stay longer. But yeah, signing a top goalkeeper, loaning him back out, or at the very least have a buyback clause, things like that, I think makes sense. I think he might, like Jay Mew said in the chat, he might want to enjoy the latter part of his career elsewhere, back in Brazil, or he might want a huge payday in Saudi. We know they're going to throw ridiculous money at him. There was already reports that we were going to get a huge bid this summer, right? And so, I'm assuming in at least a year, when his contract might get closer, we might extend him and then put a huge clause, release clause, like 100 million or plus. And then if Saudi want him for that, maybe 1 or 2 years, and then maybe hopefully Queven stays, and hopefully he sees out another few years, and then he assumes the role, or he fights it out. But this signing seems closer than what people think. But then we heard reports today that there's another team now, I think Atletico
Madrid,
trying to jump in. So it's going to be interesting to see. In terms of, I heard people bring this up. I heard people say that this might upset Ali or Kelleher. I'm pretty sure they know what they're doing, you know, in terms of the plans, you know. Those guys know they're the first choices, you know. But yeah, Yaros has looked pretty good, Rigo in preseason. I've been impressed the more I've seen of him. I think he could assume the backup if Kelleher leaves.
Yeah. So a couple of things there. I'm very glad, CT, that you're on the same boat as me. I think the thing that we're kind of giving the plaudits to as far as the change in management from bringing on Edwards and obviously Hughes is it being a lot more forward thinking, not only on the team you put on the pitch, but also on building it out, and the opportunity to cash out on a team, on a player that's world class, arguably the best goalie at the Euros, who's only 23, 6'6", left-footed. His stats are just amazing, playing in La Liga, which is not obviously one of the top leagues, next to the Premier League. I think is very, very smart business, especially at the price that was kind of being bandied about. I think between 25 and 30 million, which is quite substantially less than we paid out for Alisson when we purchased him for Roma, if I remember correctly. So, and I think if we're hearing this, a couple of things. They're being opportunistic, which is obviously what their motto, looking for best deals and talent that they can get on the cheap. That will improve the squad. I think it's an opportunistic signing. I think they probably heard something, or Alisson at least commented to them that he would like to stay at Liverpool a couple more years, but after that, start a new project. Nothing against Liverpool, but he just might want to start a new project. Check out somewhere else before he retires. And again, do we want to have Gianluigi Buffon towards the latter end of his career, or prime Gianluigi Buffon and then have him, you know, go to his starter club to kind of see it out, as opposed to doing it with us? So a couple of things there. He can guarantee us a fee if he communicates with us that he kind of wants to go prior to his contract running out. We secure a potential superstar goalie that can come in, and obviously Kelleher, I think, does deserve first team minutes. He will not get that with us, barring injury. He also has 2 years left on his contract, which does run out the same time Alisson's does. So a couple of decisions to be made there. Yaros, as you guys said, I think it was very, very impressive. He might not be the tallest guy, but he's thick as hell and looks strong. Obviously, the loan spell did him well, earning a couple of trophies while on loan. But yeah, I'd do this move in a heartbeat. Initially, I was skeptical, but on thinking about it, I think it's a way good way to kind of secure top end talent at a reasonable price prior to having the need. Because again, if people know you need something, they're going to charge you through the nose, or as much as they can, knowing that you have a need. If you're purchasing from a position of power where you don't actually need the guy, you're just kind of trying to secure his services, is much, much different. Which is, I think, you know, we misstepped when we won the Champions League. We didn't build from a position of power. We kind of let it decay a little bit, but that's another time.
Here's a question for you, Rigo. Okay. Would you today take 80 million for Alisson right now if we could get this guy to start?
So 80 million, so that would be a 50 million net.
Yes.
If you're outlay 30 net gain plus 23-year-old, I kind of think about it, because again, who's paying those high prices for a goalie? As we've seen, as I hope all of you have noticed, these transfer fees, barring Atletico just absolutely sniffing glue, or getting paid on the side from City in another way. Again,
allegedly,
these guys are friends, and they can do things outside of the realm of football to kind of equal out that 85-90 million. But apart from as El Hero said, a Saudi team, and again, as we've seen, that project is kind of, I don't think, going as great as they had hoped. There aren't many teams who can afford A, Alisson's salary, or B, what he would be worth on the market were we looking to transfer him out. So to answer your question, Paul, I think long and hard on it, and I might end up pulling the trigger just because of how we're set up economically as far as the club. We have to be able to maintain and pay for our own stuff. We aren't getting any extra cash from FSG.
Yeah, and just just a clarification. So the actual fee that Atletico Madrid paid for Julian Alvarez rises up to 95 million euros, which is more than we spent for Darwin Nunez, actually, which is kind of insane because of the fact they have the same goal tally. And I think one is a slightly better talent than the other. Just some final things before we wrap up today. So the thing about Mamardashvili, I can't say his name now. Giorgi. There we go. I'm just gonna go with Giorgi until I can pull up his name again. GM. There we go. But I like trying to pronounce George names like 𝗤𝗨𝗞. It's very fun. Shenanigans. Exactly, JMuse. About spending that money, Rigo. The thing is, though, if you're spending 30 million for him, you're essentially telling Pitaluga, Harvey Davies, and Yaros they're not good enough to start for Liverpool. It would be my only thing. And I think it's one thing to say Kelleher is ready on seniority and he's about equal skill, and Alisson's just Alisson. I'm not saying he's not good. If you're buying a goalkeeper, load him out now. He's starting in 2 years. It doesn't matter who the manager is, most likely. And I think it would be a smart buy. But also, I think that what they're trying to do is promote more specialist positions like left back and goalkeeper through the youth system, even right back, because if you really think about the money you spend, if you don't have to spend 80 million for Alisson, it allows you to spend 80 million on like a striker or a DM or a position that you have a lack in there. But however, I have found the answer, my children. Eureka. We just signed Jamal Musiala and all of our problems are solved. And on that note, I leave you all tonight. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Paul. Thank you to Rigo. Thank you to CT. Thank you to the wonderful nations of Canada and Australia and I guess America. Do we think America yet, Rigo? Or no? We're not going to
United States, not America.
Yeah, that's true. United States.
Well, everywhere. Thank you across the world. This is Reds Worldwide. What are we saying? Reds are everywhere.
It's an American themed show. What do you want from me? I'm only doing so much here. Thank you everyone for joining us. Up the Reds. You'll never walk alone. See us again tomorrow, 7:30 British Standard Time, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. Have a good night, a good day, or a good evening.